Hi, Miss Bubblets is here. We're going to do a one-pager on biotechnology. The resources that I'm going to use start on page 159, and then I end up going all the way to the end of lesson 5, which would be page 168. We'll do it. So those are the pages you want to use. Remember, the same rules always apply. We're going to use 3 colors, and we're going to make sure we have 2 questions, and we're going to make sure we have 3 drawings. We're going to have 5 vocabulary words and their definitions, and 2 quotes. And also we need to add a main idea somewhere, which I have not done yet, but I will. So starting at the top, let's go ahead and put down the definition of artificial selection. Remember, artificial selection and selective breeding mean the same thing. If you go to this page, you will find the definition. It says, it occurs when humans, that's the main word you need to remember. Humans breed. And guys, breeding can be animals, it can be plants, so don't just think breeding only goes with cats and dogs. When humans breed, only those organisms with desired, these are things that you want to see come out, desired traits. 2 of our bucks at the barn naturally don't have horns, so I breed them all the time to goats who have horns, hoping that the offspring won't have horns. That's called being naturally polled. So I can do artificial selection. You can do artificial selection. Let's say you eat a tomato. It's the best tomato you've ever had. So you take the seeds from that tomato, you plant those seeds, and you end up growing your own tomatoes. And guess what? They should taste pretty much just like the tomato you picked. So like I said, anybody can do this. When you're going to look at artificial selection, you should never see the mention of DNA. You should never see the mention of manipulating the genome. I don't have the ability to do that. You don't have the ability to do that, so you should not see those kind of things in the question. You're always going to see a farmer mentioned or a breeder. They're not going to mention types of scientists or doctors or anything like that. So artificial selection. It occurs when humans breed only those organisms with desired traits. Perfect. Here's our first quote. Genetic disorders typically result from 1 or more changed genes called mutations. I threw in an extra vocab word there. Remember, a mutation is not always bad. Sometimes a mutation can lead to the success of an organism through adaptation. We'll be learning about that when we get into the last topic next week. But there's the definition of mutations right there. I found that also in your book in lesson 5. The next vocab word we're going to focus on is genetic engineering. This is what you saw when I showed you that movie, Cracking the Genetic Code. This is something that only scientists, researchers, or doctors, PhD, MD, people like that can do. So we're going to find genetic engineering on page 164. It says, through a process called genetic engineering, modern geneticists can transfer a gene from the DNA of one organism into another. So let's write that down. Modern geneticists can transfer. See, they're actually doing something. Can transfer. And I'm going to throw in this word, alter. Because I was talking to some of the boys last week. I said, what's the difference between genetic engineering and cloning? And the difference is cloning is copying. Genetic engineering is altering something. So modern geneticists can transfer or alter a gene from the DNA of one organism into another. See, that's different than cloning. Cloning would have been the same organism. So here you have the mention of another one, and they're altering it. So that's the difference, main difference you should walk away from genetic engineering versus cloning. So there's our second vocab word. We're done with that. I threw in a question from lesson 4 here where it says question 2. It says RNA uses a blank instead of a blank. Can you look on lesson 4 and find that answer? If you're doing RNA, it uses a blank instead of a blank. And what I'm looking for is these letters here, T, G, A, and C, those type of letters. What letter do you use instead of another one? Look that up in lesson 4. That's for you to do. Here's my second quote. The complete set of information that an organism carries in its DNA is called the genome. You heard that word all the time in the movie we saw, Cracking the Genetic Code, talking about the human genome has been done. It's a big, important medical finding that we did. Our next definition is going to be gene therapy. Again, we saw gene therapy in that movie as well. Gene therapy in humans, genetic diseases are called mutations or changes. Some mutated genes pass from a parent to child. So gene therapy involves, I'm reading about the middle of the page. Involves changing a gene to treat a medical disease or disorder. Remember that girl in the video? They were born twins, and the girl was having all kinds of problems. She couldn't even stand up anymore. And they realized that the girl's brain was not making dopamine that the girl needed. And they ended up giving the girl dopamine, and the very next day she was able to walk and stand up. So that girl was having gene therapy done. So that's a very good word right there. What the other question I have here is list the steps of creating a clone. I'm looking for 3 steps. You're going to find them on page 167. Please write them in right there. Another question I threw in is, what does T always match with? What does G always match with? A and C. Please fill in the blank right there. Also, I need you to find the definition of clone. And I gave you a little drawing down here of a normal red blood cell. Looks just like that. The red blood cell of the disorder sickle cell anemia looks like that. So this is a mutation that causes the cell to be shaped like a sickle or a crescent. So I've got you started. You should be able to finish this up. Remember, you still need to add a main idea somewhere. So go on ahead and do this, and once you're done, you can submit it into edsby by taking a photograph of what you've done and adding that as the evidence when you're submitting it to the gradebook assignment. Thanks a lot. Make sure you have 3 colors. Make sure you do a border. I think that's it. This is Miss Bublitz. Bye.